not going to be in attendance this evening. Correct. Just not in attendance. I didn't see the on air. I was just going to ask. But not on air yet. Or the lights burn out. The on air usually tells me that we're good. The light, we're on. All right. All right. We're going to call to order the City of Sherwood Planning Commission meeting for March 12th, 2024. Oh, my agenda has the wrong date. Anyway, call to order. Consent agenda. Actually, no, we're going to do a roll call first. Sorry.
Okay. Chair Simpson?
Here.
Vice Chair Wydola?
Present.
Commissioner Kai?
Present.
Commissioner Barnes?
Here.
Commissioner Capco?
Here.
And Commissioner Vance is absent.
All right. Consent agenda consists of the February 26th Planning Commission meeting minutes. I have one Scrivener error that I'll leave for staff. Is there a motion to approve?
I move to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the consent agenda. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right. And now we're going to move to council liaison announcements. Did the Councilor Stantke leave any instructions? Fascinating announcements.
No instructions.
Any update from the March 5th council meeting?
Oh, thank you. Yeah. City Council did approve a full ask to Metro for Sherwood West. Some comments and discussion, but yeah, they directed staff to apply for the full ask. So staff will be putting together the application and applying by April 5th for the full ask. And we will see, we'll continue to track the Metro process, and then probably by early fall this year, we'll get an indication from Metro about where things are going and conditions of approval, and then that decision will be finalized this winter, 2024.
All right, thank you very much. Staff announcements.
Excellent. Thank you, Chair Simpson. So I do want to let you know that the climate-friendly equitable communities, the amendments have been filed with the state. The next step would definitely be noticing, but the Planning Commission will hear the hearings, or will have the hearings in April. So that's going to be forthcoming. The other reminder for you is the 2024 Statement of Economic Interest, the SEI, needs to be filed by April 5th with the Oregon Government Ethics Commission as a reminder for the commissioners. Lastly, the Planning Commission, we're doing a recruitment for position 1 that was vacated by Commissioner Montalvo. So we are currently accepting applications now till April 12th. We are doing social media outreach just for potential individuals that may be interested, and it'll be also posted in 5 different locations throughout the city. And they can reach out to me if they have any questions in regards to the position, but also if they're considering and applying.
Joy, on the SEI statement, I went to go try to file it, and it said that I did not have to file one at this time.
So just for clarity, you cannot file until March 15th, and it's due April 15th.
Okay.
So they haven't opened the filing date yet. So
Thank you.
yeah. I was just reading through. I want to find the April, but I do know that the SEI newsletter that I got said even though you can't begin filing until March 15th, you can attend a filing training right now if you wanted to. It probably is super exciting. I was just trying to find, it didn't give the, SEI reports are due April 15th. And it's available 24 hours a day. So there you go. If you haven't gotten your notification, reach out to Sylvia.
Our recorder, Sylvia. So Commissioner Kai, you have 3 days.
Okay. It's funny. Is that new? Because
Yeah.
whenever we've gotten it from Sylvia, like I've filed right out and it's been able to file. So,
Yeah, I think
and it
it's
was
new
showing
too.
Earlier dates. So
Yeah, I think it's new because previously I filed earlier. So yeah, we changed it. All right, any other staff announcements?
Nope.
All right, community comments. Community comments are limited to those items not already on the agenda. If you wish to speak on something that's not on our agenda, we'll ask you to fill out one of the blue cards in the back. If you are testifying on our hearing this evening, we also ask that you fill out a blue card form and turn it into one of the members of staff. All right. Now we're going on to, I don't have any community comments, do you?
No.
No, okay. Public hearings, and I have a script read. Public hearing on Rock Creek Industrial Pantone Land Use Case File LU 2023-017 is called to order. Now turn to staff for hearing introduction.
Thank you, Chair Simpson. The first hearing on this matter was held on February 27, 2024, and was continued to today, March 12, 2024. The public hearing this evening will be conducted as follows. Staff will present the staff report, 15 minutes, questions, if any, by the hearing body for staff. We will then open the public hearing for testimony, and the time will be limited to as follows. The applicant, 30 minutes, split between presentation and rebuttal. Persons in favor of the application, 4 minutes each. Person in opposed to the application, 4 minutes each. Rebuttal from the applicant's remainder of their 30 minutes. Then no other testimony will be taken from the public or applicant unless the public testimony portion of the hearing is reopened. Final comments by staff, 15 minutes. Questions of staff, if any, by the commission, and then deliberation by the commission. A decision may be made by the Planning Commission at the close of the hearing, or the matter may be continued to a time and date certain. If the matter is continued to a date certain, this will be the only notice of the date you receive. Staff will recognize people who have signed up to speak 24 hours in advance to provide testimony virtually. When it is your time to provide testimony, please state your name and address for the record. If you are in the audience this evening and wish to speak, please fill out one of the testimony forms and submit it to the planning staff. The chair will recognize people who wish to speak. When you come forward, please state your name and address for the record. Any questions should be addressed through the chair. In reaching a decision on the application, the Commission must consider whether the application meets the relevant approval criteria in the city's land use regulations. Those criteria are identified in the staff report. The staff report is available online and at City Hall. The staff report was accessible to the public 7 days prior to the meeting date. The testimony and evidence must address these criteria or other criteria you believe to apply to the decision. Please note, failure to raise an issue with enough detail to enable the Commission, the applicant, and the parties an opportunity to respond to the issues precludes an appeal to the City Council or Land Use Board of Appeals on that issue. Also, failure by the applicant to raise constitutional or other issues regarding proposed conditions of approval, again with enough detail to allow the Commission to respond to the issue, precludes an action for damages in circuit court. First, I need to confirm that those commissioners who were not present at the first evidentiary hearing on February 27, 2024, have watched the meeting and or read the meeting minutes, reviewed the materials of record, and are prepared to decide on this matter. Commissioner Kai?
yes.
Thank you. At this time, I would like to ask the commission members to disclose any ex parte contacts, bias, or conflicts of interest. Please indicate the nature of the extent of the ex parte contact, bias, or conflict of interest, and indicate whether you intend to participate in or abstain from the hearing. Chair Simpson?
I have no ex parte contact, bias, or conflict of interest and plan to participate this evening.
Vice Chair Waidola?
I have no ex parte contact, bias, or conflict of interest and plan to participate this evening.
Commissioner Capco?
I have no bias, conflict of interest, and I plan to participate.
Commissioner Kai?
None, and I plan to participate.
And Commissioner Barnes?
I don't have any ex parte communication, no bias or conflict of interest, and I plan to participate.
Great, thank you. Does any member of the audience wish to challenge any Planning Commission's members' ability to participate this evening? All right, I see none. So now planning staff will now present the staff report.
Evening, Commissioners. So we're going to just kind of dive straight into it. But as mentioned, this is LU 2023-017 Site Plan Review CUP for Rock Creek Industrial. Just kind of, again, the application summary that was proposed, but just kind of gives you a quick overview of kind of what the nuts and bolts of this case in detail. So really what is different? What are the updates and revised information? We're going to be touching on really 5 points tonight for the proposed trailer parking, landscaping and screening, exterior lighting, fee in lieu and right-of-way dedication, as well as addressing that there was non-substantive changes to the staff report that have been incorporated or that will be incorporated. So just a real quick reminder of what the site looks like. This is the southern parcel, and then this is the western parcel if you guys flipped it upside down. So I guess firstly, just kind of going into the trailer parking. So this was something that was brought up at the last meeting and was taken back to staff for internal conversation. I think the conversation kind of was around the trailer parking as its kind of like own independent use or as a primary function of the property. After conversations with staff internally, it was kind of determined that one, it really is necessary for the overall operation of the warehousing and distribution use. And it will remain subordinate and incorporated into the overall operation. Just to kind of identify standalone trailer uses would require a conditional use permit, and they can only be approved on constrained land. The subject parcels would not be classified as constrained land at this time. With that caveat, if basically any of the proposed uses, either permitted or conditionally permitted, ceased operation, any trailer storage would not be permitted on site. So essentially it cannot operate at this time as its own independent use. And then the property is required to do a lot consolidation. So when we're looking and talking about constrained land, we're not kind of like identifying one parcel or the other. It's kind of one giant cohesive site that wouldn't be considered constrained land at this moment in time.
So for clarification,
Yeah.
they're doing a lot consolidation to ensure that the trailer parking area is linked to the main parcel.
No. So it's part of the stormwater management requirements, and
Okay.
so because of CWS, they're required to do a lot consolidation. So in essence, it's achieving that goal as the condition.
So Clean Water Services is requiring it, but to that end, it's also firming up the requirement that the trailer parking is integral to the main operation, which is now on the same lot. So they will not be able to subdivide the parcel later. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
So they can't subdivide it. And so at that point, we don't need an ongoing condition that says they can't divide it because they can't do it because of Clean Water Services requirement.
Right. It has to do with like the facility type.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. Thank you.
Moving forward, another thing that was brought up at the last planning commission was kind of the perimeter landscaping in relation to trees and tree species. In the red, you can kind of see where they've basically adjusted their landscaping plans to include evergreens, which basically retain their attractiveness year-round. You will see in the conditions of approval, because it was brought up at the last meeting, the southern portion of the property, because it has kind of the adjacency to the warehousing and distribution use. There wasn't the inclusion of evergreen trees there, but we've conditioned it and worked with the applicant to include that as a final component prior to final site plan approval.
So the blue is,
The blue, yeah, sorry.
but they're not evergreen, or are they?
The blue is not evergreen, the red is the evergreens. So those were the ones that were incorporated onto the overall site plan. And just to kind of give you a visual, an imagery of kind of what those are going to transpire, these are the 3 species of evergreens that are presented and kind of what they look like at their maturity. There's 31 evergreens right now that are going to be presented or were presented in the revised landscaping plans. More will be included with the condition of approval at the southern portion of the property. And then I guess kind of looking at the lighting schematics, that was another component that was kind of actually tied to screening, right? Preventing things kind of going onto adjacent properties, but as well as making sure that, there isn't any unnecessary glare or what oftentimes people call dark sky compliance, right? With the caveat, we do have a condition already in the staff report that the applicant cannot create any glare on adjacent properties. This was kind of a way of us working with the applicant to kind of ensure that that condition wouldn't be violated and that we wouldn't really cause any issues onto adjacent properties or wetlands, right? As you can kind of see with the schematics there, they're kind of downward facing. They aren't shielded, but they have the capability to be angled and moved, as you can see from the photometrics, to basically target the light into very specific ways that would be more cohesive to avoiding glare or causing basically anything that would violate the night sky, essentially. Additionally, when we were working with the applicant, there was engineering modifications and adjustments that were presented. Basically, to kind of go over it briefly, we did a modification of the fee in lieu to the to and through requirement, only requiring them to go from the Commerce Court to the southern end of the subject parcels. There was also a revision to the condition of approval to include detailed amounts, specifically financial amounts for water, sewer, and broadband. And then there was kind of a correction to the right-of-way dedication with wall from 58 feet to 38 feet to meet the standards of a local street connection. This was included as Exhibit B, Appendix B2, in your guys' basically we provided them to you prior to the hearing tonight, and so we're introducing that into the record for your guys' review. And as you can kind of see from the updated revised information and then from the materials also being introduced in the record, basically a draft condition of approval, you can kind of see where those amounts were inserted into existing conditions of the revised staff report. So that was basically just including C8, C10, C16, as well as the actual attachment of the probable cost associated, which was received March 12th, today. At this time, there is no new testimony or public comments that have been provided. And looking at just kind of at what staff recommends, staff finds the application will meet the requirements of the city code described in the revised findings and conditions of their approval in the staff report dated March 6th. Staff recommends the Planning Commission approve the application subject to the revised findings and conditions of approval described in the staff report and proposed during the hearing. Planning Commission alternatives include approve the application based on the revised findings and conditions in the staff report dated March 8th, 2024 as modified during tonight's hearing. Approve the application with the revised findings and or conditions. or deny the application with revised findings. And with that, I'll open it up to questions.
Okay, so I want to kind of go through the opinions of probable cause document before we have the applicant come up. So it's attachment B, appendix B2. This is the opinion of the applicant's expert, correct? That's the testimony from the applicant. Or is this produced by staff?
No, this was testimony provided by the applicant based on their expert opinion on the cost to construct
And this was submitted to us on the 12th, correct?
Correct. It was reviewed by city engineering as well.
So our engineering report doesn't include any language regarding the actual cost, the numbers.
Right. Our engineering memorandum does not.
And then we can call up our engineer to have him confirm it in a moment.
Yeah.
But I just want to address it as a general overall. We don't usually have actual numbers in our process because as a planning commission, there are two ways that applicants get charged. Their fees, well, it's probably more than that, but I know that the city council sets the fees and we cannot waive, adjust, or modify the fee schedule that the city council approves. Or in these engineering ones, it's based on calculations that are outside the purview of the planning commission. They're normally not hard numbers that we do. And so it's my understanding, because we spoke before the meeting, that the applicant is looking for some sort of certainty that the numbers are a goalpost that everybody agrees on as of today, correct?
Correct, yes.
So I guess my concern was they have 2 years to complete an application, and then they can go for an extension, or if there are crazy things that happen, like, a pandemic or something, extensions can also be extended. And as a commissioner who looks at numbers in my regular job, I would say that if extensions occur, these numbers are fixed at a 2024 time horizon to be built within 2 years, and that if they ask for an extension and fail to build within that period of time, we should have a opportunity to have inflation adjustments on a continuance. Is anybody, because that's not in the condition of approval, and before the applicant comes up, I don't want them to be surprised after they've had a chance to testify that I'm going to ask the commission to consider an inflationary, because it says we're fixing a number and we're holding the city accountable to only being able to charge prior to an engineer's estimate in the amount of $80,125. In this case, this is for the sanitary sewer, but the same is true for all three of them. It's a hard number, and I'd like the clause to say in the amount of $80,125 if construction occurs within the original approval period of 2 years, after which time inflationary adjustments may be applied. They don't have to be, but they may be applied. Just so that, because I've never been on a hearing where we've as a commission gave a number, so I was really uncomfortable with that. Does anybody else have any other comment? I don't want to surprise the applicant by having this discussion after you've testified. So, okay, so that would be the edit change on all three of the conditions, is that after the initial approval, a period of 2 years, an inflationary adjustment to these fee in lieu may occur. Or whatever makes me sound smart when you type it up.
Yeah, we'll make sure to include that.
Okay, so that, again, this is our second hearing, so the applicants.
And just, if I can, just clarify, is that okay, Gene, if I jump in?
Please, I'm
so,
flailing, yes.
We will, the way that the behind the curtain, if you will, we accept or require the fee in lieu at the time of building permit issuance. And so in order to get to building permit issuance, they have to have final site plan approval, which means that basically they've finished the site plan, the land use approval through final site plan. They've also got through building permits, and they're gonna start construction. And so I think as long as they're not, I'd recommend we tie this to, there's some code around an extension for final site plan approval. I don't know if maybe one of the planners can pull it up, but you know, if things are moving along, they don't need an extension of the final site plan. That means they're coming in for final site plan approval within 2 years, and they're getting building permits basically at the same time or right after that. So maybe some language that says it basically ties the inflation trigger, if you will, to if they get an extension pursuant to the development code section, then that's the clear trigger to actually require the inflation. And then just to be clear to the applicant and to you guys as well, if they get the code allows for a 1-year extension to the land use approval. So these would be the costs up until 2 years from when you guys stamp this tonight. And then if the final site plan and building permits are not issued within 2 years and an extension is required pursuant to that code section, then we jump in with the inflation based on the difference between now and that period. If something happens, just to be clear, play this all the way out. If something happens and you don't actually build it within that total of 3 years, including the 1-year extension, then you got to come back for land use approval. So I think we're only looking at an inflationary metric if the building permits are issued between 2 and 3 years, which I think is a reasonable thing to get. And if they're moving quickly, and based on what I know in the background, they're going to move quickly with this project. They'll finish this final site plan and get building permits issued well before the 2-year mark. So,
and that's all was happening on here. But I've seen extensions and I've seen things happen, and I just would hate to tie our hands. And again, it was really uncomfortable and having a number that we're locking the city to. So I appreciate the extra explanation. So,
Chair.
yes.
On the first two anyway, it seems like we could remove the amount and still be covered with fee in lieu payment at 105% of a Oregon State Professional Engineer's estimate to cover the following.
There,
On the first two, on C10 and C8, I believe that language would work, I think.
Just remove the amount altogether.
But the other one, we'd have to put in the caveat of inflationary adjustments.
yeah, I think we'll ask the applicant to speak to why they wanted the number in there before we go. I guess Hugo and I had a conversation ahead of time. So with staff, I was just trying to relay the background of what we talked about. So
So the condition of approval that included the amount was kind of at the request of the applicant. But I think to kind of cover our bases, I think we can definitely include the inflationary trigger, so to speak, to essentially kind of address any kind of delays in permitting. But I think it kind of basically gets our cake and eat it too in this scenario, right? Where it's essentially they're covered in terms of their pro forma and like the finances and investors into the project. But at the same time too is we're kind of having them at a deadline saying like, building permits need to be issued by X date, otherwise inflation is going to kick in, and that way it can kind of address those concerns in the future.
and then do we want the engineer, our city engineer, to testify, or do we Hugo testifying that the engineering department has reviewed the numbers and that is the fee amount that's going to be charged? We have our engineer here.
Yeah. We could bring our city engineer up to the front, and he can kind of talk a little bit more about the metrics and how they're kind of like calculated and incorporated into the staff report. Craig, you want to?
And while Craig is coming up, so just to elaborate on I understand it's not something that this planning commission has done. We have staff has taken this approach with finalizing the fee in lieu amount during the land use process. We've done it with the hearings officer a few times. We haven't done it with planning commission. I'm certainly comfortable with that. And Jane, you mentioned, Chair Simpson, you mentioned not setting fees and things like that. I think the way I would see this is it's a condition of approval for a fee in lieu. And that is your purview,
Right.
including staff and engineering staff. And what we're doing now is just putting a number to that fee in lieu to give certainty to the applicant that we're not going to disagree, about the square footages and rock width and all that sort of stuff in the future. So it's a way for us to really be on the same page with the applicant. And frankly, and Craig will speak to it, the city we've reviewed these numbers. We think they're accurate. They're based on current numbers for construction costs, et cetera. So it's a way just to provide certainty to both parties and avoid an issue in the future. And actually, from a land use standpoint, gets us more certainty and cover, if you will, on things like proportionality, that down the road things aren't opened up. So,
and I understand and I agree. It's new, and making sure we are doing what we're supposed to be doing, then that the applicant and the commission are comfortable with it. So, and
Yep, Craig Christensen, senior engineer. So yes, we actually have had it back and forth a few times on that. So they initially submitted one. I marked it up and sent it back to them, and then we went back and forth a couple more times there. And so we looked at it, and I sent it on to the city engineer, and he looked at the sanitary, the water, and the broadband. As of right now, the transportation has not been signed off or approved of as of yet, because it has to go to the city engineer and the county engineer. So that one is kind of outstanding at this point. But the water, sanitary, and Sherwood broadband have been looked at for their accuracy.
and this 125% is what we would be charging, and just that happens to be in the condition now, and you're comfortable with that?
The 125% is basically what they would have provided for if they were bonding for it or performance assurance.
Mm-hmm.
And so if they were to provide that as a performance assurance and not do the project, that would be the amount we would take in. So that's where the 125 is coming from.
Excellent. Thank you very much for confirming that. All right. Anybody else have any other questions of staff before we call up the applicant? All right. You gotta hand me a blue piece of paper so I can try and pronounce names correctly. All right. Brenda Fodge. And make sure you turn on the green light. It's like a 3-second hold down. Oh, somehow. There we go. Oh. There we go.
Okay,
All
okay.
right.
We did also have some on the Zoom. I don't know if they're on there? Okay. They may speak too, so I just want to make.
Okay. If everybody just says their name and address for the record before they testify, that will make us all work.
Okay, Brad, Panatone Development, 1821 Dock Street, Suite 100, Tacoma, 98042. We appreciate the Planning Commission's feedback at the last meeting. We don't have a formal presentation, but I want to say we did appreciate the feedback. We did work with staff and come up with what we've had presented. So we support the staff conditions that they proposed and the additional landscaping and getting the lighting dialed in. I also, to your point on the fees being spelled out, for us, it's some certainty. We've had other jurisdictions where things have changed drastically from early discussions to actually what's approved. So for us, we just needed certainty. We don't have any issue with the proposed language that you guys want to add about inflation and such. That we have no issue with that. We intend to keep moving quite quickly and get this under construction. So that's all I had. I don't know if anyone on our Zoom had anything.
I had one question of the applicant. If so this is a lot of truck parking. And I was just doing math going, it is almost 2 acres of trailer parking dedicated on the site. And so I just started doing the numbers, and it started to cause me concern because when I look at it, and I appreciate the evergreen screening that's going to be done, but if you drive out to that area, when you come from downtown Sherwood, you go out past our roundabout and you look, there is a low spot, which is a retention pond right now. And then it's up the hill and then the point. And the point of that hill is where your trailer parking is going to be. And so it's going to be like the peak of the hill. Like when people look up that hill, that's the only thing they're going to see is that trailer parking and then your building behind it. It's sad that because your building has great architectural features in the front and that trailer parking is going to be somewhat obscuring it. And so the other thing I forgot to mention is that I was hoping to get a site obscuring fence on the west side of it, right next to where the trees, the evergreen trees are, so that when the trucks are parking there, their headlights aren't. Am I facing? No, I'm facing.
Can we pull up a site plan?
Is there a
need to get
fence?
orientated.
Yeah. Is there up there?
Oh,
That one, where this one. So the trailer parking area there is going to be facing our community. And even with the evergreen trees is a site obscuring fence, a possibility, I
in
guess.
addition to the trees?
Yes. And I don't know how the commission, does the commission have any, I guess I was raising it up as, that's a lot of tractor parking. If trucks are parking there overnight and they have their lights on or anything going on, that's going to be, it's like on this peak of a hill. And so I was just trying to do the best we could to screen and buffer from that wetland area that's right across the street of Tonquin Road and to what our community is going to see.
And just to clarify, Gene, are you talking, so the area highlighted in red on the left image would be
Correct.
where what about, I guess, to the north of that? Are you picking up on anything in there?
Yeah, well, I'm assuming that if we put a site obscuring fence in that parking, then the trailers would not be visible from the.
What, I guess I understand the need or the desire for a visual barrier.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like a fence, a screening fence and landscaping would be a redundant. I don't know that two would provide better than one would. And I didn't know when you say screening fence, can you elaborate more on what you were thinking, type of fence, or just trying to understand
And I may be, I guess I'm only one of the commissioners. If other commissioners don't have that same concern about that being, is it screening to the.
I would agree. I think that because if you look at the picture with the trees, you can see that all the branches are up higher, right? So if you even had just like a retaining wall style,
well, I think the ones on the far right are probably groomed a bit.
Sure. Just think, well, I mean, most evergreens are sort of sparse at the bottom. So even if there was something that lined down below, like she's saying, if there's lights or anything that come on at night, it does go directly down to the road.
Can you go back one? So I think to answer the question in terms of type, I think the lowest would be like chain link with slats would be the site. I think site obscuring is the language that our code uses, and chain link with slats is a requirement.
It also would provide security, I guess, also.
Craig, I believe the hatched triangular area just to the left of the red dot there is a storm swale. Are they going to have a fence around that?
No, Craig, you need to use the microphone, or we all get in trouble later.
Sorry about that. Yeah, that is a private facility. So if it were a public one, we would require a fence around it. Now, since it's their own, that's not necessarily a requirement. However, they may want that for their own safety and insurance and so forth, because if those things get kind of deep, you don't want someone going off there where they shouldn't and falling in that. So it's quite possible they might be fencing around that for their own protection.
I was thinking if it was required, we kind of checked the box already just based on the CWS standards for fencing, but it sounds like it's not required, so.
So for clarification, on the image on the left, the red box is indicating the trees, not the trailer parking. Trailer parking is actually outside that box on the other side, is that correct?
No, it's both.
Yeah.
It's on both sides?
The trailer parking is here and here.
No, I'm referring to within just the lot on the left. The trailer parking's not against that tree line, it's against the tree line on Southwest Commerce Court.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm just trying to think the images and the slope and how it's going to view.
Yeah, and that trailer parking area sits a little below grade-wise. It'll sit below Commerce Street, and so it'll be lower.
Use your microphone or we'll.
I think I know the answer to this question, but the only way that trailers can park in that parking area is for them to back in with the front facing the evergreens. Is that correct?
Correct. That's
Okay.
what they'll do.
Okay.
Yep.
And that was my concern, is they're going to have headlights
Yeah.
and other forward-facing.
I'm guessing for their operation that they have to go that way, but I was wondering if it were possible for them to face the other way, but it sounds like that's not possible.
They'll want to back in.
Right.
Yeah. They'll want to back in.
So, would you be? What's the commission's take on the fence, or because this is a conditional use, and we're trying to buffer this to the community?
Would a fence or bushes? Would bushes be more agreeable to the applicant, or
they take up more room?
okay?
I guess in my mind.
Are you saying in addition to the additional trees we already
Yes,
added?
I'm just thinking something that, like some type of low growth that.
In addition to the trees.
Yeah, that because the trees might not cover the lower area that we're concerned about, but
I think long-term, with the space we have and the grade change there, I don't know that adding bushes under the trees is going to be a long-term.
Right.
The bushes will be healthy long-term and achieve what you want to achieve.
Right.
Do we have an irrigation plan? Do we know if that area will be irrigated?
I don't know at the top of my head, and our engineer's on the call as well, so he may have that answer.
Yeah, I'll introduce myself. This is Bart Brinstead, civil engineer with AHBL. I think you need my address. It's 2215 North 30th Street, Tacoma, Washington. So we will be permanently irrigating all of that landscaping, including those trees on that side.
And commissioners.
Sorry, this is Bjorn Brinstead with Panatoni Development. I'm Brenda's counterpart. Address 1821 Dock Street, Suite 100, Tacoma, Washington 98402. I just wanted to add the trailers that come in there with the tractors. The tractors themselves, or the trucks, they don't park. It wouldn't be parking overnight. They would drop, and they would go park somewhere else. So the lights that I think you're referring to from the trucks themselves would only be temporary for however long it takes to back in.
And commissioners, just to kind of jump in and kind of address the irrigation component, that is part of our code criteria in terms of approval. And additionally, we have conditioned them to provide irrigation prior to occupancy. It's just at this stage, there's really no way for them to really provide an adequate irrigation system.
Thank you. Yeah, I believe I saw that plan earlier. Just wanted to verify. So in my experience, when you do have a mixed stand of vegetation like this, you're either going to get shade shadow, you're going to have some type of foliage die off, you're going to have some spacing issues. And it looks based on the landscape plan here that the abundance of evergreens there assuming that they've been spaced appropriately, may lead to some gaps, and it may behoove the applicant to consider certain interstitial space type fencing of some sort. But again, with the temporary use of vehicles, the lighting may just be a temporary impact that we have to consider.
And so what your counterpart was saying was that there will be no nighttime use of trucks parking and it's only daytime?
Typically, they'll drop their trailer and go get the next trailer, right? They're paid by trip typically, so they'll drop their delivery and go get the next one. But it all depends on the tenant. Like, I can't guarantee and sit here and tell you no one's going to park overnight, because I can't. So, but typical behavior is that they'll drop the trailer and then they'll move on to the next job.
I think the longevity of the project and the amount of uncertainty of who's going to be using it and how frequently they're going to be in and out doing it, a chain link fence with some slats in it is a reasonable accommodation. Also considering that it also, if you end up wanting to do it for security, you would have a fence around the property anyway. So I would ask the commission if they would like to entertain a condition to add the site obscuring fence on the community facing side.
Along the road specifically?
No, facing this way because
Facing Tonquin.
yes, facing Tonquin.
So would you also want it, because if they're driving out this direction as well,
I don't-
spaces.
Yeah, I see what you're saying, but this has like 3 rows of trees.
Yeah.
And this has 1. And this trailer parking area here is buried inside the property. People aren't going to see it. This property, if you go from Tonquin around the roundabout, this is just going to be like the beacon on the corner of the hill. That's where my concern with the screening is. And it, like I said, it's unfortunate your proposed building has all the architectural features that are what we would hope to see on the corner of our thing, and now the trailers. That's what, when I left here, I started looking at it going, the trailer parking's going to be out where our community's going to be looking at it, not the beautiful building that was designed to entice us. So I'm trying to get a head nod, yes or no, if the condition is.
I would support that.
Okay, so if the applicant is not objecting to our additional condition of approval to add a site obscuring fence on the west side of the trailer park. So
Can I just do a quick point of clarification? Would it be possible to do, I know Commissioner Barnes mentioned doing one kind of, either a full length or doing ones that kind of bridge the gap between the trees? Is that something that would be acceptable as well?
Well, in my experience, there's numerous type of landscape fencing that you can do. I would suggest as part of the condition is that one that's approved by staff to ameliorate the lighting issue. So there are versions that are slats, there are versions that are, so there's a bunch of different things, and I think it would make sense for us to actually take a look at several alternatives.
Okay.
Staff can make that
Yeah.
final
We'll
determination.
work with staff to.
Yeah, so the condition that we would have is that a site obscuring fence can, in conjunction with the evergreens to provide separation from the visual separation from the community on a conditional use impact.
I'm not. So, Brenda, are you asking if there's gaps in the vegetation, that's where the fence gets filled in? Is that what you're saying? Or?
If that was an option, yeah.
Okay.
If that was an option, and
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, I still assume that the landscaping's going to occur the way it is, but if they put in I'm not a creative fence person, but if they have something that is still going to work, maybe cost less, and they can do interspersed with the vegetation, that's
As long as it
screens.
then yeah.
And that's the intent, is this is a conditional use. The impact to the neighborhood is more invasive. I don't know, that's not the right word, but intrusive, yes, because the building itself has architectural features and it looks great. Tractor trailers stacked up can look like an eyesore, and when something comes into the community, I just think we have an opportunity to improve what we can.
So point of clarity here, along Tonkin, yes, west side, you said west side. I just want to verify.
The left box.
West side.
The trailer parking driveway.
Trailer parking driveway. Not there. In the red box. They're going to put the...
Okay, that's clarity. It's not along Tonkin. It's just within that red box as far
Yes.
as right behind or in front of the trailer parking.
Right, correct. And the other red box, you already have a couple of rows of trees that are going to stagger cover, so that's beautiful. So thank you for that. Does anybody else have any other questions or concerns of the applicant? Because I don't want to do any more surprise conditions when you're not here and the public record's not open, so.
Yeah, this is Bart here again. Could we clarify the height for this fence so it's clear in the condition? And I'm going to recommend a height of 4 feet, since that would be higher than the headlights for a truck, which seems to be the main concern here. So a 4-foot side obscuring fence.
I was envisioning 6 to 8 feet, but
Because the community on the other side of the wetlands,
are up on the hill.
it's higher, right?
They have trees too over there.
Yeah.
They have mature trees on that side of the wetland.
I'm not married to any height. What's the commission's pleasure?
I know 6 is standard general fence height, so
Well, as long as it's effective, I think that's what's important.
Yeah.
Is I don't think the height is necessarily something to dictate, but that it's effective to shielding the headlights as much as possible for the neighbors.
The headlights being the major concern that we need to make sure we address.
Yeah, I think it needs to be the condition is that it's effective. Or
Yeah.
it's
And
conditioned.
visuals of the trailers too, I would assume, in my mind. I don't think I'd want to necessarily look at a trailer from my.
Well, we're not going to be able to
Vantage
build it tall enough. Then you're going to be looking at a
No, I
really
know,
big
but-
fence.
The trees will take care of that over
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
Trees will take care of that, and the side obscuring fence that provides screening to the community is appropriate, yeah.
I'd recommend a 6-foot tall fence. But it's up to you guys. But I think to address the concern that I'm hearing, I think 6 foot is going to just get us there faster and better than a 4-foot tall fence.
Okay, a minimum 6-foot side obscuring fence. That,
Yeah, I mean, for us, I think Bart's comment is we're addressing headlights, which typically aren't over 6 feet. So that's, I think, why he wanted to, where we were talking about going lower.
yeah. I agree with the 6 foot, because
Yeah.
it is.
They may be 4 foot on the truck, but the cast may go above. And I think 6 foot.
It's not unreasonable.
Okay.
Is that a motion or is that?
Does it
does it need to be a motion, or does it
No, not
just
yet.
get?
not just yet, as long as
When we're done deliberating, we'll
We'll-
make the motion and add the
we'll add a condition. All right. But I just wanted, like I said, before we close the public record, give the applicant an opportunity. We did hear the 4 feet,
Yep.
but we also have 8-foot fence standards, so 6 foot's right in between those two. So that's a good compromise. Thank you, Eric. All right. And again, thank you again. The building is going to fit in well, and I appreciate what y'all attempted with the front visual on Comics Core. I appreciate that a lot. So, any other questions? And we already got the lighting itself. It's all going to be focused to the ground. Because you drive past some of these, I drive past some Amazon distribution area, and sometimes they face down, sometimes they face out. You come around a corner and you're blinded with the light, but that's all code compliance if it starts becoming a blinding light situation. So appreciate the effort in getting us visuals of what the light is going to look like, so we're not having light pollution into the wetlands there. Any other questions of the applicant? Applicant have any other questions or concerns for us?
No, we appreciate staff and commission's time in considering our project.
All right. All right. Okay, so I'll ask if we have any proponents. We have people in the audience, so let me. Does anyone wish to speak in favor of the application? Does anyone wish to speak against the applicant or the application? Did we have anybody sign up 24 hours in advance to provide testimony or neutral testimony?
No.
All right, then the applicant does have opportunity for rebuttal testimony of your remaining 28 minutes. That will be a no. Does staff have anything to add which specifically addresses a question raised during the testimony that we haven't already vetted?
None at this time.
Okay. Does any member of the commission have questions regarding clarification of the testimony to this point? Okay, if there are no further questions, I'm going to close the public testimony portion of the hearing, and we'll now go into deliberation. So what I have from our deliberation from the revised staff recommended conditions of approval that were presented to us before the meeting are including the four red highlights, was in the opinion of the probable costs area. There's 3 items that we're going to add language that clarifies that inflationary adjustment if not built within 2 years, and that is triggered based on the public issuance of building permits, or is it in the section that it's in, which is engineering plans?
I'm sorry, I missed that. And what did you get that, Hugo?
You said something about making it a trigger for the inflationary.
Yeah, so did you get the code section? Someone get it? I can pull it up. But there's a code section that basically allows the extension beyond the 2 years. And so what I'd recommend is we tie the condition for the inflation to that. If they utilize that code section and that takes them beyond 2 years, then the inflation is assessed at that point.
We don't need to have that code number for the motion tonight. It'll just be in the final notice of decision then for the applicant.
Yeah, that's fine. For tonight, we can just say site plan extension criteria.
All right. And then we're going to add one other condition of approval, which is the revision of the plans prior to final site plan approval. Add a site obscuring fence at least 6 feet tall in conjunction with the evergreens. However that gets designed, and again, we understand that it could be spaced through the trees, but the trees themselves, that spacing is going to remain, and there's going to be a fence added to help fill in. All right. Those are, did I capture all of our conversation?
Yep, that's what I have.
All right. All right. Any other discussion before we have call for a motion?
Just like to clarify on condition A11, just the language in this new packet that we got. The applicant shall protect, and I can either do Scrivener's notes here and provide them, or just say it now. The reading of it is a little unclear. The applicant shall protect and maintain existing vegetative areas as presented on the preliminary landscape plans during the construction phase of the development. Destruction or removal of existing vegetation shall be mitigated via the replanting of similar ground cover to what was approved under this section.
Got it.
Is that, so, sorry, could you repeat that last one? Destruction or removal of existing vegetation, and then what was the last component?
Shall be mitigated via the replanting of, so it looks like in here we continued with the will be required to, which was stricken from the previous version.
Okay.
So it's destruction or removal of existing vegetation shall be mitigated via the replanting of similar ground cover to what was approved under this section,
Okay.
or decision, yeah.
Okay, good catch. Staff can fix that.
Cool.
That's not going to have to be captured in a motion though, right? Scribner's? Yeah.
Okay.
No. My head's shaky. Doesn't answer. It's not an answer, even though it may have marbles loose in there. All right.
We ready for a motion?
Absolutely.
All right. I move the Sherwood Planning Commission approve the application for Rock Creek Industrial Panatone site plan review conditional use permit LU 2023-017 site planning conditional use permit based on the applicant testimony, public testimony received, and the analysis, findings, and conditions in the staff report with the following modifications. 2 additional conditions, language added around inflationary adjustment to the fee in lieu incurred tied to the existing code. And 2, site obscuring fence be added with a 6-foot minimum.
Seconded.
All right. It's been moved and seconded that we recommend approval of LU 2023-017 SP CUP Rock Creek Industrial Panatone with the revised conditions of approval stated previously. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Approved. Motion carries. Thank you very much for your time. All right. Last agenda item before we adjourn are commissioner comments. Vice Chair Wydola, any update on the charter?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, as a matter of fact, just going through email, we have our first meetings for the city charter review set for next Thursday, 3/21/2024 at 6 p.m. here.
All right. And when's our next meeting? Do we have another meeting this month?
No, we do not.
All right.
It will be in April, and it will be, I've scheduled 2 hearings, but hopefully we won't require 2 for the climate-friendly equitable communities amendments.
So will you have an opportunity to send out where we're at right now between now and, because isn't, like, the week before the hearing is maybe not enough time for me to read everything?
Yes, I will send out just an update in regards to where we're at, just because we currently don't have any current land use applications that are going to be in front of you at this
Okay.
time. That's why there aren't any near meetings in regards to public hearings.
Right.
But definitely with CFAC, I believe the first hearing in April is when it's scheduled. But I will make sure to get you guys a heads up. I did try to put it on your forecast, and the dates are in the forecast. There has also been an update related to the litigation that we were involved in. So the Court of Appeals have rendered a decision, and they've upheld the CFAC rules. With some minor changes we're still reviewing. But it's my understanding that the work that you have seen so far that I've presented to you is still valid. And so it still will start moving. That's what I did file, is the materials that you have seen and we've discussed.
So do you have is there a place on the website?
Yes.
Maybe send out a link so that we can review the draft materials ahead of time.
Yes. We have created, in addition to the typical climate-friendly, equitable community webpage, we're assigning a specific land use, so it'll be on the project page that are typically with our current land use applications. So yes, we will post that, and also the public hearings will be posted on there as far as the notices, just because unlike a typical land use application that would inform the individuals that, or the property owners within 1,000 feet, this is citywide. It's a legislative change versus quasi-judicial. So we are going to be publishing it in the newspaper as far as the times. We will also be posting it at the 5 locations throughout the city of Sherwood. And the typical noticing in regards to our Planning Commission page. And ultimately, it will be placed in the City Council meetings also. Because after your review, it would go to City Council for their final approval.
Yeah, it's just unfortunate because based on our litigation and the situation, we don't really have an option. We are just having to implement what the state is requiring us to implement. So I know that we talked about it before. I just want to make sure that the message is getting out that we are not doing it because we think we want to implement it. We're doing it because we have to, based on state law.
Yes.
And if we can make sure that messaging is clear in all our public meeting notices, that would be
Yes,
that'd be great.
for sure.
And Jean, you want to review the material, you want to review the actual code updates prior to a week prior. So I think we can probably share the draft with the understanding we might do some fine tuning.
Yeah.
A week up to a week prior, but happy to share what we have. I think it's mostly done, so we can share that with you.
Yeah, I just think there's been a lot of moving parts. There's been
yeah.
a lot of stuff given it to us over almost a year's time, and
Yeah.
so it'd be nice to have one, like if it's a link on the website or just a packet that you send to us.
Yes.
That'd be nice so that because we've
Yeah.
all had different interactions over the last year and a half.
As you know, the commission was definitely our citizen advisory group for the CFAC work, and which has led us to these final product. And typically, the commission reviews land use related to Title 16 as far as the municipal code. This touches also Title 3 and Title 5 that deals with revenue, like a tax on commercial parking lots if it's ever built in Sherwood, but also commercial leases that are in Title 5, I believe, and so which is unusual, but as the Citizen Advisory Board for us, you were able to look at those. But the packet has been, again, filed with the state, so I can definitely easily share what has been submitted. And then through the hearings process, we can definitely make updates as we go through.
Oh, right, and through the hearing process, things may change, but if you have the packet that you submitted, then maybe we can all just have
Yes.
a heads up of,
Yes.
here's the condensed version of what we've been working on because we all had
Right. So
piles of paperwork in our
I believe notice
garage.
is going to go out as far as it'll get published, I believe, next week, next Thursday, as far as the time. So it's all time is appropriately timed that we can definitely share the drafts with you now.
Perfect. Awesome. Any other commissioner comments before we adjourn? All right, then we are adjourned. Thank you very much.